Podcast, a podcast about the game of life and the hero's journey we all experience. Let's jump in with our host, Dylan Watkins, as he introduces today's guest.
Welcome, young adventurers. And on today's podcast, I have Dan Brown. He is the founder of the Positive Transformation Group, whose aim is to positively impact the lives of 1 billion people. Dan created the Positive Transformation as a mindset in himself to challenge fear, doubt, insecurity while dealing with the extreme life situations, having come from being homeless to now leading the PTG as a philanthropic, creating commercially sustainable opportunities globally. So without any further delay, I would like to welcome Dan Brown.
Dylan, hi. How you doing?
I'm excellent. Thanks for being on the show. I'm glad to have you here.
Yeah. When you say it like that, it sort of sounds quite a lot.
It's a lot to unpack and go through it, but it's cool that it's really inspiring to hear, because a lot of people they'll talk about their successes, but they won't talk about their failures. They won't talk about where they came from and how they get there. But it's really important to set a path to let people know, to carve a way to say, I've been able to go this way, you can too. So I love what you're doing, and I'd love to learn just a little bit more. Can you break down to me your PTG group a little bit for us, so you can unpack it in your own words and not my mouthful?
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I'm always very happy to talk about failure, because I just believe that it doesn't exist. Like there is only quitting. So as long as you don't stop, then it's all good. I think failure is where all the learning is. So positive transformation was entirely about a mindset. As I said, it was for so I left home when I was 15. I had some very difficult situations going on there. That wasn't entirely anyone else's fault. I contributed to that, just like other people around that dynamic did. But we'll probably get into that. But what positive transformation is all about was that people gave me some opportunities that really helped me move into what I'm doing now. It got me into a good job, into a career. And through that, I always felt like the need to want to create opportunities for other people. So eventually I reached a stage where I was able to take my network across business, government, third sector organizations, charities, and think about how we could create like an infrastructure to provide connections to the right people, money and resources to help other people's projects and help other people create opportunities. So that's really what it's all about.
That's beautiful. And so, I mean, the idea to kind of create these opportunities, I mean, how do you get this started? Because I think, the beauty for me is that transitionary period between idea to actual execution to make something like this. And when you're making something like that, I mean, it sometimes can be overwhelming and people can kind of get stuck a lot in their head, but you've been actually able to get up, run, and execute with it. Can you talk to me a couple of those early steps, how you felt about trying to create these groups and kind of the struggles you went through to make it happen?
Yeah, I mean, look, this was an evolving process over, I'm 45 now, so this is like 30 years really, and I would start by saying, poverty is a wonderful motivator. So you don't have a choice. I had two choices, right? I could curl up and die, or make a plan. The plans are wonderful, but you got to execute. So for me, like, I was motivated to just find a way forward. I was determined that my life wasn't going to end at 15. And that wasn't going to be the end of me. And so I at that point, all I could do was make a very broad statement to myself, which was, I'm not going to be beaten. I will find a way forward. I can't do anything about this situation. I'm in it. So fundamentally, I need to find ways to survive. So somewhere to live, food, that kind of stuff. I had no income, no money, no friends, no family, no nothing. So it was decisions based on necessity that have then evolved over the years. You realise, well, I can do that. So maybe I could do this, and maybe I could do that, and maybe I could do this. And then eventually you start to feel where your passions lie, and start to evolve, a process to just move forward. Does that answer the question?
It does to a degree. I mean, there's a couple of pieces on there. One of them is the question was in terms of like going from an ideation of making the group to actually execute on it. It can sometimes be difficult and challenging, where you sometimes have an idea where you stop and you reflect back and go, wow, this is too big. I might be crazy. I don't know how to do this. I feel like I'm a fraud, like those situations. And then being able to overcome those situations and then gain that proof and that belief in yourself is kind of things I'm super interested in. One of the positivity group, I mean, and the other one is, I mean, you're talking about being young and being in that situation of needing to survive, like that desperate survival situation where you need food, you need that. And I know, there's a number of disadvantaged youth that I work with in that area that's going through that type of stuff. And so, I mean, so touching on that, since we're already over there, I mean, what would you say to them when they're in that survival mindset where they're like, look, man, I want to get my next, I need to get money. I need to get paid. I just need to get something stable. I need to get that. Like what advice would you give to some kids like that are going through it?
Okay, so I suppose to try and answer that in one. So there are three things that I do now every day that have evolved from those situations. So, I look every single day at what really matters to me, and then I break everything down into the tiniest possible steps. And I still do this every day. So and I look at one day as like one lifetime for me. So what really, really matters? Now that could be, business opportunities. It could be I need to eat, and then break that down into just what can I do immediately? What are the things I can do right now to make something happen? And then also the third part of that. So what matters? What can I do? And what can I remove? Like, it's such a massive thing. Like, I think it's something that people really overlook, which is what crap is existing in my day that I need to get rid of to enable me to actually make the steps that I need to make to achieve what matters. So what matters, what steps can I take, what can I get rid of immediately? And then really it's just get up and do it.
Got it. It's actually really interesting because a lot of people think of what are the things that they can do, but they really don't think about making space by removing objects, by removing habits or situations like that. And I think it's a really good one. So when you're talking about that, I mean, is that like a morning routine for you? Like you're like, you wake up in the morning, okay, here's my big goals. Here's what I need to break down. What does that look like?
Yeah. My day, like I'm, like in terms of a day, it's like I spent a lot of time sort of researching how to be the most efficient human being I could possibly be over the course. So I'm sort of boring on this front. But what I worked out is that there is a huge correlation between discipline and structure, which get a really bad name, by the way, and freedom. So the more discipline and structure that you can put in a day to do those three things, the more space you create, the more time you get, the more freedom you get, and the more ability you have to think and then actually create the things you need to do. So it's an all day. So I've worked out for me what my most efficient use of a day is. So I start at 4 a.m. and I finish at midnight. And in that time, I have a framework which I can move, but there are a set of things that need to be achieved in that 20-hour period. And then I can mold and adapt it to suit what I need to do. But ultimately, it's constantly looking at what matters, what steps do I need to take, what do I need to remove, and then making adjustments throughout the day. And that's whether it's dealing with, work, friends, family, fitness, whatever it might be. It's discipline and structure that gives me freedom. And then people might think, oh my God, that sounds horrific. But in that 20-hour period, I guarantee you that I get more free time than most other people.
Got it. So you're keeping an eye on like a couple of like top issues, top things that you need to get done. And then you're like, hey, no matter what, I'm going to find a way to knock this out, get this done, get it over with. Yeah. And so then with that, then, is there times that you feel your own internal, because one, it does sound god awful, getting up before midnight, in full disclosure, it does. You're like, I am super efficient. I basically have cut out all my fun. I work for 18 hours a day. No.
No, it's sort of like, so I don't have like, what I've tried to remove most of is having this work concept, right? So it's life to me. So my ideal life is, there are things that I like to do with other people. So in one day, it's how do I get all the things that I really enjoy, the things. So for me, I really enjoy, I had a period where I was really unhealthy, really unfit. So, I needed to think about, what do I really care about? What do I enjoy? Who are the people I want to spend time with? So all the things that people would consider to be like, enjoyable things, they all get done, over the course of, let's say a week, but, looking at the day. But it also incorporates the things that enable me to do that. So, there was stuff that I used to do that people would class as work, that I was finding I hated it. So then it makes you less productive in everything else. And it's the ability to actually, that's the remove section. So if I'm going to spend 20 hours a day doing stuff, I want to make sure that I love it, I enjoy it. And there's a process to go through of, realizing there's going to be some stuff you're going to have to get rid of, and it's going to hurt a little bit for a while. But just, if you're really passionate about it, you just have to, just make the decision, write it down, I'm doing it, and get on with it.
Yeah, that's the tricky bit, is that sometimes you sit there and you look at it and you're trying to make that chasm where you're like, you need to, but you just don't want to. And then people sedate themselves, they get distracted, they go online. Last question with this one, we'll move on. But my last question with that is that in terms of the periods where you need to do something, you're looking at it and you're struggling to actually get yourself to take that step. How do you get yourself to take that step when you don't want to, but it's for your best interest?
So again, so I try and look at everything now as it's either a good day or it's a good day to sort out my mind. So if I'm having one of those days, where I can't, I'm struggling, I don't want to do it, I don't feel like it. What I've sort of tried to be able to do now is to accept that, it's really nice to have a good day, but if you're feeling like that and it's really bad and it's just not happening, really kind of just sort of sit down. I'm not going to, meditation, I think, is like wildly misunderstood. But like, just take a moment, sit down, kind of readdress the things that are important, take half an hour, give yourself the opportunity to be a little bit courageous and write it down and move forward,
Yeah. It almost sounds like you have like if you're okay, I'm pretending to be you, talking an internal dialogue in my mind. Okay, all right, we have agreement. We're going to do this to get to where we need to go. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then you go to do it. You're like, why aren't we doing the thing that we agreed on? Okay, timeout. We're going to take a break. We're going to have a chat. We're going to step into my manager's office. I'm going to put on my manager pants and please have a seat.
You got it. You got it. You got it. Like, you're making me sound like a complete nutter, but like
no, it's beautiful.
That's it.
It's beautiful. It's brilliant. No, but it makes a lot of sense. It's like you're either going to do the thing, or if you don't, you're going to understand you need to take a step back and then just really go, okay, what's going on here? And that's beautiful.
There's a thing to do there as well. Like I used to, I don't do it so much now, but it's a great way to. It's just I used to sit down and just write. Like if I was in that situation, like what are the 5 things? What are the 5, frankly for me, incredibly stupid things that I'm doing right now that are preventing me from doing the thing that matters? And I would just sit for whether it's like half an hour, 45 minutes, and write it down. And then like through doing that process, just start to realize that the stuff that I am my own, I'm like being my own worst enemy. Like just 5 things that are preventing me moving forward, write them down, realize realize what they are, and then just stop doing them.
Yeah. That's it's beautiful, and it's good. You're getting clear on the actual number, and like, okay, what am I doing that's stopping me from versus trying to blame other people or shout and scream and say I didn't get here because something happened. That's amazing. And can you talk to me just a little bit about the group that you have? Like, who if you were to have an ad for the group, who would you speak to say come join your group? Like, who would be a good fit for people that would benefit from the group that you've created?
Yeah, it was created so that it can benefit everyone. I mean, we've And I know that's a really broad statement, but originally, the people that can provide the sort of support that people need are, businesses, very sort of powerful, influential people. And we're doing a very good job of bringing those people together, certainly in the UK, and then starting to roll that out now more internationally. But the people who could benefit, it's for me, it was everybody who wants an opportunity. Like I've said this a few times, like, maybe not, maybe not everybody wants an iPhone, right? But everybody wants access to an opportunity. And so what I am desperately trying to create at the moment and provide the technology infrastructure for people to access it is anybody who wants an opportunity should be able to access what we're creating and find within that what it is they need to be able to move forward. Now, that could be a young person who needs connections to the right people, mentoring, advice, support. It could be the CEO of a large organization who wants to better access to a better way to recruit, develop, and train people in their organization, or that same person who might just want to offer up their skills and support to other people. So it's an environment for people who want to help and support, and those who want a hand up, not a handout.
Got it. So it's a positive place to help people create new opportunities, new connections, and then really kind of hive mind, if you would. Get people together. Beautiful.
Yeah,
awesome.
Definitely.
That's awesome. So can you talk to me maybe just a little bit, because your journey going from, say, being homeless to the journeys you went along the ways, what were a couple of those pivotal moments that you felt that you did not know, what I would call threshold guardians, things that would you felt like you're on your path and it seemingly seemed insurmountable, and then you were able to find a way to make it work?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple that sort of immediately spring to mind. So initially, kind of being that kind of first sort of decision, and it was my decision. I left the environment, and I think I was expecting, maybe that to go a different way in terms of, maybe that was a bit of a cry for help, and it didn't materialize. So I ended up on my own, and that feeling, that sort of, just the, like you say, very insurmountable, overwhelming feeling of just thinking, there just isn't a way forward. Like, you're sleeping on people's sofas, in a bus stop or backs of people's cars at various points. That's quite, even now, I think a lot of that developed my mindset, which I can reach back into, and being able to just, sorry, go on.
Oh yeah, so you could reach back into, like, do you reach back into it as this, I know what this feels like, and use it as a form of strength? Is that when you say, when you reach back into it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you probably come across David Goggins, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he's got a great metaphor for that called the cookie jar, which is being able to reach back into something where you achieved something really positive and remember how you felt. So at any point, you can reach back into your own cookie jar, and pull out something that helps you move forward. And that's the kind of the mindset that I was developing. So at that stage, just the ability to find some people that were willing to help, and that's one of the best pieces of advice I could ever give anyone. Like, it feels like we live in a very divided world, a very divided society. But I know for a fact there is a huge collection of people that do actually want to help people. And I think reaching out, just having the courage to go and ask somebody you trust that you need some help was one of the big sort of precipices that I overcame very early on. And that's probably what's helped with this. More recently, I was very fortunate with my path and development and contacts and career all developed really, really well. But I also then found that I was abusing that myself, and I'd gone off on a very different tangent, where I dug myself a giant hole. So I didn't have anything. Then I had too much. Then I created this kind of person who became, ruthlessly commercial and difficult, and drank too much, and had a massive drug problem, and was not in a good space at all. And then realizing that you've created your own nightmare, really, through being self-indulgent, and realizing that at about late 30s, and feeling like I've literally standing on the edge of an abyss now, where I'm going to go all the way back down to the bottom, or I'm going to have to like really summon something up and push forward. And so, that, again, like being able to, identify all of your own challenges, work out that you have to be the answer to your own problems, and then create a plan to move forward, was quite challenging.
Yeah, I've noticed that pattern, especially when you come from a place of scarcity, and I've seen even with myself that you get to a point where if you're in scarcity and then you try to make up for the scarcity by indulgence, right?
Yeah.
Like overindulging on things,
Everything.
and then you don't feel great, and then you realize that like, oh, this is it, like, and this is not the exact same thing, but just as a small example, like I went to like an all you can eat, like all inclusive resort place where you could have anything you want, and I was like, this is amazing, and I just started to gorge as much as possible, and then like halfway through the second day, I'm like, I feel terrible. Like I feel like I was like, they're like, do you want more? I was like, I don't want anything. And there's this really sense of weird emptiness that you get from that. Like it was fun. It was funny at first, and I realized I was like, oh, this could be dangerous if I continued. If I had all inclusive places, that kind of stuff. But that's more from like it's like a small little micro set versus being set on that path, because it seems like, yeah, when you're struggling in a place of like scarcity, and you sound like you're grinding hard to make a living, and then so you're relieving that with like other activities, alcohol and drugs and anything else that like comes along because that stress. Have you found other ways besides what the typical like drinking and drugs and stuff like that to be able to manage and cope with the stress of your day-to-days? Like, is there something you do to like
Yeah, I mean, that's a great analogy, by the way. Like, it was absolute, it was like, just all of a sudden you're in the sweet shop, the cake shop, like, shoveling that in like as much as possible. And yeah, it's becomes quite a dark place. And again, like, I don't want to trying to be practical about it. It was like, okay, we're working out this isn't good. But I know this sounds like really basic stuff. This isn't good. I'm not happy, right? So I need to find out what are the things that really matter. What actually excites me? What am I passionate about? You've spent all this time focusing on lots of stuff that you now know is irrelevant and not important. Big house, all this kind of stuff, and it's all rubbish. You get there and you just think this is completely pointless. So it's then just, for me, it's just like, how do you define balance? What am I actually passionate about? What am I excited about? What do I like to do? And then day to day, what are the things that are going to keep me balanced? So there is an element of you're replacing negative addictions with positive ones. So I was very heavily overweight, and sorry about that. Sorry, hang on a second. Sorry.
Yeah.
So that was
it's still vibrating. Oh,
yeah, it's gonna finish up in 2 seconds. Sorry, I'm really sorry.
That's okay. We have a little bit of an audio issue there. It's all good.
I didn't realize that thing was still on. Sorry, my apologies. That was a coffee.
It's okay.
Oh, joy.
All good.
It does it in every meeting that I ever have. Like, I forget, and it's like halfway through, and there we go. Yeah, so like replacing, kind of negative addictions with positive ones, frankly, and trying to find some balance. So knowing that you need to, whatever it might be, you need to lose weight, you need to stop drinking. So for me, it was identifying just targets and goals. So I started, trying to become fitter, trying to get more into exercise, and I quite struggled with it because I needed more of a purpose. So I started doing martial arts and finding things that were much more positive, where I could sort of channel my energy, and looking at the stuff that I was doing, and thinking, well, kind of going right back to my childhood, well, what is it that's important to me? And yes, I like nice things, but not at the expense of being the person that I know I want to be. Mm-hmm. So I started to just think about how do I want to spend my day? And I want to be fitter and healthier. I want to be more able to create, like, build something like positive transformation. So it was more about working out who do I want to be first, and then working out who I'm definitely not. And then what you're left with really helps you just define what you're going to do day to day. Is that helpful?
Yeah. Well, one thing that's interesting. So you figure out who do you want to be. So beyond just working out for working out's sake, and then you use that kind of guiding light to kind of get you in the direction of what do I need to do to be who I'm going to be. With that though, like one thing you talk about is, I mean, some young people, they have struggles finding what they're passionate about. They have struggles finding out who they want to be. They just want to survive and get on. I mean, what advice would you give to them for trying to figure out their passions and trying to figure out who they want to be?
I think, again, it's a big thing about working out, like, who you're not first. I think there's a lot of, there's so much now about, find your passion, find your purpose. And that is, it's a wonderful thing to do. But if you're not able to know who you're not first, that's really difficult to do. And so, a big part of the process I went through was actually sort of thinking of, and like, people know, like, you can feel in yourself the things that really you don't make you feel good. The things that you're doing because somebody else is doing it, or because you think that's what somebody else wants you to be. And you can feel that. I would challenge anyone to say that they can't feel the things they don't want to do and the things that aren't good for them. And I think the more you can identify those and just like, that, I'm doing that, that's not me. That's really not me. Like, write that stuff down, like, write everything down. That's not me. I'm not doing that again. And that process might take months. Like, this is the thing. It's like, it's this instant quick fix environment we live in. Like, I'm gonna focus on finding my passion for a day, like, or a week or a month. Like, this stuff can take months, like, it could take years. But the point is, like, it's making a decision to get started and saying, well, I don't like the way I feel. I don't like what's going on. And I know there's a lot of things that I'm doing that I know. I just know that they're not good. Like, I can feel it. And then just try to stop doing them and make a note. And then what you're left with at the end is actually this sort of person. You become the person that you really, truly want to be by removing all that other stuff.
Yeah, so you're kind of like chipping away at yourself and saying, okay, and if you don't know who you want to be, just find out who you don't want to be, and then start understanding that and looking at that, which makes a lot of sense. With that, I mean, looking at the who they want to be and what does that look like? You mentioned something about writing things down, about write down everything. Can you talk to me just a little bit about your habits with writing things down? Like, what does that look like on a day-to-day basis? So just
yeah. No, like, it's such a, personally, I've just found it's such a powerful thing. Like, there's so much that goes on in the mind, like day to day. And if anyone wants to test that out, just sit in a chair with nothing around you for 5 minutes. Like, don't touch your phone, don't touch anything, don't pick up a coffee cup. Just sit in a chair for 5 minutes to realize, like, how crazy, the mind can be. And so things will fly in and out, and the ability to capture that, writing stuff down rather than typing. There's something that really sort of drives it into your mind when you physically write things down. And two, it enables you to capture thought processes quickly, and it's a very different process to doing it digitally. So I would have a little a pad. I had for a while this weird fascination with very small pads. But yeah, we just spend a lot of time just writing down, each day, again, what matters, who do I want to be. Like literally, people around me thought I was completely mad. I'm sure many people on this stream do as well. But it's a really powerful process, and then you can refer back to it. Even to look back at yesterday, like your mindset saying, I feel really positive today. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Blah blah blah. The mind goes up and down, and then literally the next day you wake up, you just feel terrible. Like being able to refer back to something you physically wrote about being really positive, being of a really, focused mind, and realizing that was you like 12 hours ago. There's just something really powerful in that, I believe.
Yeah, so you have a pad and you write it around. I don't think that's crazy. Like if you wrote it on your body, I might think it a little crazy. Like you said, like I capture notes and look, it's all just up and down on your forearms and your hands everywhere. Yeah. You got that, like that I might be like, well,
I bought a white suit and just started writing all over myself and on my tie and turning up to meetings.
Shark Tank, are you there? We got an idea for you, Shark Tank. You ever just get sick of pieces of paper? Don't you just wish you could just write on your shirt a note, just pull it out. Anyways, but no, that makes sense. I mean, there's a lot going on in our brains, and there are so many ideas that come in and out and all that fun stuff. And if you aren't able to capture it, it's that you're just kind of just living in the moment, which it's sometimes hard. It's you got to get out of your head. I know it feels good for me when I write a bunch, like on the money or whatever. I'm like, I just get it all out of my system. Yeah. It just feels like I'm like mentally vomiting on the page, and
there's a good thing about that as well. Like, I did for a while. Like I don't use a lot of social media, but I used LinkedIn as a tool. And I used it because, one, it's good for managing a network of connections. Great. But actually for quite a while there, for exactly that reason, as well as the sort of very personal stuff that I would write down, I would write a lot of, sort of blogs, articles type stuff. It was more about publishing commitments to myself and knowing that once they're out there, I'm accountable. And that's a very powerful process as well, like very powerful.
So you would write things down and then you would post them on LinkedIn and saying, here's what I'm going to be committed to doing. And then you have that like innate social accountability driving you forward. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, with positive transformation, like, and I've said this, like openly to lots of people, I had no idea of how I was going to pay for it, deliver it. I took 320 people out for dinner, and on the hope that people would turn up. That was a start. I mean, basically this thing, it was just like, right, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to make some earth-shattering commitment where, if burn the boats, the phrase about just burn the boats. So take my entire reputation, like a big chunk of money that was not in big supply at the time, and go and do this event. I invited the Queen's representative in Greater London. He showed up, which was quite amazing. Yeah, he's now our chairman. Which is like, but basically like that. But that started, like saying, right, I'm going to make a massive commitment to myself. Now, if I keep that to myself, the chances are that tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up and that's gone in the ideas rack, never to be seen again. So I would start writing articles about positive transformation. I'll publish them. I am going to do this. I am going to do that. Because, frankly, you're accountable. And, if anyone's anything like me, people don't like to be embarrassed in public. It's absolutely fine for things to go wrong. But once you've published things, there's something happens in your mind where you just become accountable for making it happen. So writing it all down, actually going and creating, even if it's a podcast or whatever, but just get out there and make the statement, and then you have to back it up.
Yeah. There's this weird, you're right. It's like, it's funny how like we don't respect keeping words to ourselves for the most part. Like, I mean, we can do it. We can say, hey, I'm gonna do this, but it's not nearly as powerful as publicly sharing that across all of these channels and stuff, calling up your family or anybody and putting it out there. It's really interesting how, like, if you do keep it to yourself, it's like this little secret. And if you back down, you only let yourself down. But that's the most important person to let down.
Yeah.
But then for some reason, about all these people on LinkedIn who technically don't matter that much to, like, I mean, they're people. I mean, they're people, but to you ultimately and your goals and like that, it's an interesting thing how we're very motivated. Like, I know I'm socially motivated by other people, the people online that are going to be worried about a large buzzing coffee sound while in the middle of a podcast, like there's like, but it's an interesting thing like that. We don't like, what do you think that's about? That like we're more inclined to let ourselves down privately, and then versus publicly. Like it's an interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite interesting. I believe this is just like for me. But I suppose I read a lot, so I churn through 150 books a year, something like that. And as part of that, like thinking about what is it, what are the things going on in my mind, and I suppose other people's as well, that create those sort of challenges. And I sort of think that for me, it's like it's a fear that has no basis in reality, that doing this exercise needs to helps you overcome, because you aren't really what you think you are, and you aren't really what other people think you are. You are what you think other people think you are. And it's quite an interesting thing when you can start to just get, who am I not, and who do I want to be, and anyone else's opinion, frankly, you just have to carve away. And then the whole concept of, if I'm publishing a statement, I'm publishing it for me, and I'm publishing it so that I can be a better person. And frankly, this is about pushing myself forward. And actually, what other people think about me trying to be a better person shouldn't matter. And I admit that's hard, but that's the way it has to be. It's removing other people's judgment when you're just trying to make yourself better.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, like that you are what you think other people think you are. And so you're basically trying to take over that reality, or this reality, in a way of going, I'm gonna put this out there because I know you think that I'm the best ever, and I understand that, and I'm never gonna let you down. And and thank you so much for believing in me. And you're right, I got your back. And they're like, what are you saying? Oh, don't worry about it. I'm just gonna post this article, but I've got you. You're taking over the reality, kind of bleeding into the other areas, which I think is really fun. And it's an interesting way to think about it. You said you read 150 books a year, which is a lot. I mean, I eat audiobooks all the time. I don't think I do that number. I don't think I can close to that. What, in terms of like, do you have a favorite book that you'd like to recommend to people? Is there something that for you, like out of like your giant list of books that you put down?
There are. I mean, and to be fair, most of the books I churn through is audiobooks. So that was a fantastic invention. I never got an education, right? So I had to educate myself. So books I hated. Audiobooks were like,
yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Do you know? There is a great. I was talking to someone about this the other day. There's everything I read. I don't do fiction, so I like all sorts of things. Science, quantum mechanics, Stoic philosophy, all sorts of stuff. I find it all fascinating. But there is there are two books that I think, like, in terms of really practical, like, engagement, is really quite good. Like, if anyone hasn't read, anyone who wants to go through like absolute transformation and wants a far better story than mine, David Goggins, You Can't Hurt Me, as a don't like the sorry, David, I'm not telling anyone to not buy your book, but by his own admission, the podcast or the audio book is epically good, and it's done in like a podcast book, and like you want a story of everything we're talking about here, like Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins is epic.
So I've listened to that one as well, and it's actually it's really interesting because he reads the chapter and then he does a podcast with somebody at the end of the chapter, and then he goes back and through the whole thing. But he's on a different. I mean, he's a freak of nature. I mean, like in terms of like, he said, was it in there that he said he had issues with bees because he was trapped in a box and they got in the box. He started freaking out. And it's like, just the level of shit that dude is willing to tolerate is immense. It's just, he is just like, it's that true, like constant love of just that, just not enjoying life. It's a weird.
But it's okay. But there's a thing about that, right? So, so I sort of took that as read, like first of all, like, and I went into like self-torture mode. So I would not suggest like that is the right way to go. So let me save everyone some pain and heartache. There's a balance to be struck, right? So what his journey was is not meant to be literally translated for other people. But the premise of if you want to develop, like then all of the growth comes in what we define as negative circumstances, right? So like we'll go back to what I said earlier about if I'm having a really good day, it's really nice. You're just having a really great day. If I'm having a day where I just feel like, you have to sort of train your mind to realize they're the days that you have the ability to grow, like coming through difficult circumstances. And that does not mean locking yourself in a box with bees or running 300 miles in a before you've had breakfast, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, I find it incredibly admirable. But that's his thing, and he gets a lot of enjoyment from that. Other people, it could be something like so much simpler. Just that I'm really struggling to like just move to the first step. And the ability to deal with the mental challenge that it takes to make that first step, that is equivalent to like David Goggins running 200 miles. That's definitely.
Like writing the things down that you're embarrassed of and the commitments you're going to make because of them, and then sharing those things publicly is a huge, massive thing that people are like, people sometimes they say what like public speaking and death are the things that people fear the most. And it's like, what you talk about, it's completely perceived. It's not real. Nothing's going to hurt you. There's a couple pixels on the screen that move around a bit and that's it. But at the same time, it's this massive level of fear and anxiety and commitment that to get over is difficult. And you don't necessarily need to, run 100 miles to your legs break and you crap your pants. It's an option. It's always available to us. But just what can you do that would get you that comfortable being uncomfortable? So I agree.
There's a couple of things as well. Like, I went through a whole process of writing all of it and publishing it all, like, so all of it. And it was terrifying for me because I had built a really big network. So all of my reputation, like everything I do is based on reputation. So I had a decision, which was I could put all this out there and be completely, utterly isolated by everybody I know. I had I did a podcast about part of my life where I was involved with some really dangerous people. I didn't have much of it, but there were a lot of things in there where, people could have taken a really, judgmental view. But I put it all out there. And I found that quite the opposite happened, actually. People were interested, supportive, really found that whole story, quite emotional in some ways. And it was completely the opposite, and I think we live in a world now that there is a lot of judgment, but I believe there's a much bigger feeling towards people who are, not me, but generally out there, anyone who's wanting to move to another level and feels that they need to be open about themselves. Until you can just be really open, with who you are, good and bad, and everything, you can't move forward. And people are it's really interesting, like that whole thing about thinking that people are going to think a certain way, and when you do it, they don't. Like, in fact, quite the opposite. They're quite taken aback by the fact that you can be very authentic, very publicly, and I think people realize how difficult that is, and become very supportive.
That's beautiful, man. It's that we want the deep connection, but we don't want to be vulnerable. And then when you do, people are like, hey, wow.
Well, there's a great quote, isn't there? That I think it was one of the special forces said, "Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die."
Sure, yeah. They're like, no, I don't do that. What's the easy, comfortable route where I don't have to try a lot? Is there a magic pill?
No. No, get over it.
Yeah, right. What was the second book, by the way?
Oh, it's brilliant. It was fantastic. So 50 Cent did a book. So do you know Robert Greene? Do you know Robert Greene who did
Greene. Yeah.
So Robert Greene did 48 Laws of Power and all that. Really interesting guy, but he did a collaboration called the 50th Law with 50 Cent. And it talks about 50 Cent in his upbringing. But I think a lot of people don't know what an immensely successful businessman he is, and the way he had to overcome, from a very different perspective, things he had to overcome, things he had to do, but the way he shaped his own persona, so that he could operate in environments that were not friendly to him. Like working, to create his own record label, inside. It's very insightful, and it's delivered in a way that makes sense to people like me. It's just very practical. It's really good, really good.
Awesome. I haven't checked out yet. I've heard of it, but I haven't looked it up. Haven't put any time to it. But yeah, I think it is. Is he the one who did Vitamin Water? Is he?
I think so. Yeah.
He did.
I think so.
Crushed it.
Yeah. There's a lot there, but I mean, they're just two. I mean, there are so many, but they're two that sort of instantly stand out for the context of what we're talking about. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So let me ask you these questions. What's your ultimate holy grail when it comes to the group that you're creating? Like, what do you like? If you could plant a flag in the sand, if you could wave a magic wand and not die and just get right to the top, what is the thing that you're hoping to create?
So the thing we are going to create is global access to opportunity. And what I mean by that is we've already built, so everything I do is collaborative. So I find really influential, smart people, and I'll bring them together. And then we put resources and funding together to create the things that we want to do. And for positive transformation, that is about creating a platform globally so that anyone will be able to, from any device, access let's say an app for the argument, for argument's sake. And within that, you will be able to access connections to the right people. You'll be able to access resources and funding to help connect your passions to create the opportunities you want to find. And to put that into a real context, one of my partners was a very, very successful technology entrepreneur. So we already have built the machine learning AI platform that will deliver all of that. We've already identified, like literally in the UK alone, there is nearly £300 billion in available resources that people, if they knew how to access it, could access for training, development for themselves, for their organizations, companies. If you want to do as an individual a funded MBA program, it's all there. There are ways to get into jobs, recruit. All of this is there. Okay, so my nirvana is that I want anyone who wants a hand up, like in life, to be able to pick up their device, find all the people that they need to help them on that journey, also access available funded resources, and also be able to take the things that they're most passionate about, connect them together, and go and create their own life equity, like be the best version of themselves, create the opportunity, find self-mastery, achieve their full potential, and just have access to opportunity for them, their friends, and their family.
That's beautiful. I mean, so it's just about giving opportunity to the masses, helping them find what they're passionate about, connect to the right people, and show them a pathway to be able to actually make the change that they want in their life, to be who they want to be, and really create that opportunity.
Oh, totally. Like, motivation's great. I'm sure like lots of people have. You spend like hours and hours, trying to fine tune your brain, like having difficult times. Motivation's brilliant, but unless someone hands you a toolkit to go with it, it's really tough. Yeah. So like, I'm all for this, these types of conversations, get people together, share ideas, motivate people, inspire people. Great. But when this is finished, someone needs to be able to go, there's your party bag. So when you now go home, instead of a bit of cake, you've got an app in there that basically will connect you to opportunity wherever you are.
That's beautiful. Let me ask you this. If that's the Holy Grail, then what's the dragon that prevents you from there? Is there something that you feel is a big obstacle on that path for you? Is there something that you feel is your greatest challenge that you're going to face to make this happen?
The greatest challenge is me, frankly. So like, I'll continually say like your greatest obstacle is always going to be overcoming yourself. Like it's big, okay, but in that it's my own ability to deal with the overwhelming complexity that's attributed to being able to do that. But every single day, what we do, and I'm bringing some really amazing people together, and what they're helping me to do is to break all of that down into the sort of smallest constituent parts, so that probably within the last couple of months, for the first time ever, I can see how we can deliver this within 5 years. And so that's an amazing thing, but it's still an incredibly overwhelming, complex machine that needs to be delivered. And the greatest obstacle to that is making sure that I keep myself focused, so that as a team of people, we can actually move towards that goal in a sensible way.
That's beautiful, and totally true on that one. The being the greatest obstacle is yourself. Let me ask you this: is there anything else you'd like to let people know about before you tell them how they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, I've probably gone on enough, but yeah, I don't know. I would just say, like, there's so much opportunity out there. Yeah, we're in a very difficult time at the moment. There's a lot of challenge, and it feels like, from a lot of people I talk to in my experience, it feels like there's kind of like everything is against people, us, all of us. But no, I mean, I suppose I would say that, there is such opportunity. There's a great saying, in chaos comes opportunity, and we are in the midst of a lot of chaos. And if you can just focus, get hold of yourself to the point that you can decide what you want to do, create some bite-sized chunks. What are the small things I could do today, and what are the negative things I was doing yesterday that I can stop doing? We're living in a time of immense change, but in that is immense opportunity, and hopefully we will help facilitate people's ability to access it. But during that time, it's just all about breaking things down in manageable bite-sized pieces, and finding people who are willing to help and support, really.
I love it. It's beautiful. Yeah. That's the recurring theme I'm getting from the whole thing is taking these big ideas and just chiseling them down and then taking some time for yourself, and then come back and chiseling it down, and just keep going through that process until you get to where you want to go.
Get rid of everything that isn't aligned to your goal. Like, just like, and that's again, I'll be careful. That's not about going, I'm a machine, I don't have any fun. But like, there's if you look at I would challenge everyone, like, just to go and spend a week, like, just looking at everything going on around you and see, like, all those people and things that are aligned to the things you care about, and all the stuff that isn't, like all these distractions, people telling you that you're not going to do it, and just chisel it all away as quickly as possible, so that you spend time with the people you enjoy spending time with, you spend time in positive pursuits and things that you really enjoy, and just get rid of all the crap, like, as quickly as possible.
Love it. And if people want to find out more about what you do or get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Dan Brown _1 on LinkedIn. I don't have a huge social media presence because I find it a distraction. But other than that, people can contact me on LinkedIn, or go via our website, which is positivetransformation.org.
Beautiful. All right, Dan, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. Keep on the grind, keeping new opportunities for people. I think it's beautiful what you do. Have a blessed and beautiful day, my friend, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thanks, Dylan.
Thanks, Dan. Take care now. Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Heroes of Reality podcast. Check out heroesofreality.com for more episodes. While you're there, you can also take the Heroes quiz to find out what kind of hero you are. Or, if you have a great story and want to be on the podcast, tell us why your hero's journey will inspire others. Thank you for listening. See you on the